I bring you greetings from our fellowship in Cape Town that has benefited so many times over the years with the spiritual ammunition that World Missionary Press provides. And it's a great joy to also bring you greetings from the church in Sudan and in Angola and Mozambique that we are able to serve on your behalf. The most colossal conflict, the greatest enterprise that I've been involved in the 19 years I've been a missionary, has been working in Sudan. The last 5 years, it has been my great privilege to be working in Sudan, the largest country in Africa, which is in the grip of the longest war of this century. The war started before I was born. In 1955, they were fighting already in Sudan. Many of the people I've spoken to, their fathers have fought the Muslims, their grandfather fought the Muslims, their great-grandfather fought the Muslims, and they have been fighting an epic fight for faith and freedom. The Christians in Sudan are very much on the very front lines of the battle for our faith and for freedom. They are a bulwark. They are on the way. They're in the path of the Muslims as they advance south down the Nile River and as they seek to Islamize Africa. You have probably heard that there have been conferences and gatherings of Muslims where the Muslim leaders of 80 different countries of the world have come together and they have planned how to win Africa for Islam. Gaddafi recently hosted a conference with representatives from 80 countries and the leaders of many of them. And they had a plan to turn Africa into a continent with one language, Islam. One religion, Islam. One language, Arabic. The Muslims are turning out 10,000 missionaries a year, most of whom are going to Africa. Out of the universities of Tehran and Cairo and Tripoli, 10,000 missionaries a year come out, geared primarily to winning Africa to Islam. In all the world, there are not even 3,000 missionaries dedicated to reaching Muslims for Christ. 1.2 billion Muslims. That's 1,200 million Muslims, and there's about one missionary, well, let me put it this way, there's about 3 missionaries for every 1 million Muslims. In this vast 1040 window, the Muslim Middle East is the greatest challenge. It is the most resistant mission field. And Sudan is a very strategic country in this Muslim Middle East, because Sudan was once Christian. From the 5th century to the 15th century, the north of Sudan was Christian. The majority of the people were Christian. The kings were nominally Christian. They withstood the Islamic advance for 9 centuries. They actually successfully resisted the Islamic attacks. Finally, they crumbled. A few of the survivors and descendants of the ancient Christian kingdom of Nubia survive in the mountain strongholds of central Sudan, the Nuba Mountains, which must be the most remote, inaccessible and dangerous mission field on earth today. To get there, you have to fly 3.5 hours to reach these people. Then one needs to walk up and down mine-ridden mountain strongholds. The Muslims are laying mines that are blowing off the feet and the legs of the people as one of their weapons of terror against these people in the Nuba Mountains. Most of the villages in the Nuba Mountains have been burnt down. Most of their crops have been destroyed. Hundreds of Christian men have been crucified, literally nailed up on crosses, like Jesus was, many times even on the front of their church. Children are being enslaved. It's incredible to think at this particular time in the history of the world, at the end of the century, at the end of the millennium, that there is still slavery today. But Muslim slave traders, often on camelback, often on horseback, are sweeping into villages and rounding up many times Christian young people and taking them off to be slaves, to be sold in the slave markets of Sudan. In the midst of this colossal conflict, God is doing a work of grace that is astounding. Muslims are coming to Christ, not just by the individual and by the dozen, but by the battalion. I know of one occasion when an entire battalion of Muslims, under arms, 300 men in uniform with weapons, came across the line and said, we want to become Christians, we want to fight for the South. Incredible things are happening in Sudan. We have trouble providing enough gospel literature for the converts from Islam who need discipleship. God is doing a work of grace in Sudan. Muslims are coming to Christ in great numbers. But this remarkable revival amidst persecution one denomination grew from 2 congregations to 140 congregations in just 10 years.